what's up, guys? I hope all is well. I'm Briah with Boxing One, the podcast.
I'm Lyric.
I'm Kobe.
I'm Deandra.
And today we'll be talking about the influence and the power of our parents. We all have great parents that have led us throughout this life and thus far. And so what are some things that your parents have taught you guys, whether that be indirectly or directly?
I mean, as far as starting off, I guess I will. When it comes to parenting, I think a lot of times parents don't realize the impact they have, whether it's vocal or non-vocal, whether they're taking actual actions towards being a good parent or towards them actually not being active. Everything that they do will influence you because at the end of the day, you look up to them. Yeah. So even if they're not there, you're looking up to what they're doing. If they are there, you're looking at what they're doing. You're watching their every action because you're thinking, well, that's how I got to go through life. That's the person who I'm aspiring to be like. Mm-hmm. For me, my mother, she worked 24/7, 7 days a week. Literally, she would wake up at 5 a.m., be at work till 12 at night, be right back home, go to the Walmart when it used to be 24 hours. Go to the grocery store at 4 a.m. And I see determination. I seen discipline through doing that. And you would look at her and just wonder, dang, what's driving her to do so? And of course, it's her loved ones, but still, sometimes that can drive people insane, and she still pushed through it. So I know for myself, there'll never be anything, if I ain't waking up at 4 a.m. to grind and do all this other crazy stuff, I ain't got it as bad as she ever did. I don't got 7 kids to try to raise, so.
True. I think what's interesting when I think about the influence of parents, and some of the things that Kobe said too, is that I think that while our parents teach us a lot of good things in terms of what to do, I think that the lesser talked about conversation is the things that we learn not to do.
Yeah. So basically, there are some things that we have to unlearn from our parents.
Yeah, and I think for me, one of the things I took from my mother, one of the greatest things I took from her is just extreme determination. I never let anything stop me. If I have a plan, it doesn't matter what steps in the way, the plan is the plan, and that's what's going to happen. Yeah. If we hit a hurdle, you jump over the hurdle, and that's the plan, right? And then I think I realized, in becoming a parent, how much I thought, oh, well, the way I was raised was fine, and maybe it was fine, and I am fine, but I also think in becoming a parent, I realized how many things I could probably do better. Yeah. Yeah, that's just to start the conversation.
To kind of go off of what you said, my mom kind of taught me the same thing, to just always go after what you want and to never give up on your dreams because there's always going to be that rewarding thing in the end. I think the one thing that my parents both kind of taught me as far as a negative side, though, is obviously the bickering and the back and forth and the kind of bashing each other in the process and not realizing that, my brother and I kind of pick up on that and kind of tend to take those things into other relationships, not knowing, and that stuff can kind of affect you in the long run, make that person that you're with kind of look at you a lot differently. Yeah. And you don't realize that stuff until you actually either go to talk to somebody, a therapist, somebody that doesn't know you. Yeah. And so recently I was seeing a therapist and I didn't realize that stuff until she started asking me about my roots as far as my family and stuff goes. And then she kind of pointed out you not necessarily you were failed as a kid, but you some of the things that your parents were supposed to teach you, they didn't. Yeah. And you had to learn that from a different source, or you just had to kind of develop that on your own.
Yes. I think I was actually going to capitalize on what you were just saying because that makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of times, what Deandra was saying, a lot of times we don't talk about the things that we shouldn't do. And I think a lot of times the reason why, especially in the Black community, a lot of times most people are coming from a single parent household, typically the mother, and the mother's usually trying to teach you what not to do from her own perspective based on her life experiences. Right. A lot of times you need to look at it you have to put yourself into those shoes. Is it time for this kid to learn that? All right. Mm-hmm. Is it time for me to learn that I need to make sure I'm able to support my wife when I'm 12 years old? Is it time for me to learn that I shouldn't be out here running through the streets, doing this, that, and the third with so-and-so so that I don't get this when I'm 10 years old? Because at that point, does it make me curious or does it make me actually stay away from it? All right. Did you tell me that at that age so that I actually stay away from it? Or did you tell me that at that age so that I go and find out about it? Because in my mind, now I'm going to go find out about it.
Agreed.
Right?
And you see, and
Agreed.
I think that that's such a hard balance, right? Because I think I think about the ways in which my perspectives have changed, because just like what you guys, it's funny how you paused when you said it's not that you were failed. And isn't it so crazy the way we are so indoctrinated that we don't want to say that our parents failed us?
Yeah.
Even if they did. Like, and I
we
think it's just so interesting, right? We feel guilt, right? Because we feel like, well, this person birthed me, this person raised me.
But I feel like when we can say that, you know, our parents failed us, right? But at the end of the day, those are our parents, right? So did they mean to do that?
Of course not. And
It's
that's the
stuff
thing,
that's
right?
carried on from
So
also their parents and
that right
parents
there,
before them.
this is a conversation that I have with my husband all the time, right? With our children, where for him, his mindset is, even when he does things that I will say, that's really toxic. Like, you can't do that, right? Like, say if we have the children and you are yelling and screaming and raging and name calling, and I'm like, no, right? And in his head, he's like, well, my parents did that sometimes and I'm fine. And I'm like, yeah, no.
Another
right?
example,
They don't know better.
another example I'll give too is like my dad, right? My dad, he didn't come from a family of affection or love, right?
Mhm.
And so me as his daughter, right? As a girl, like I think every girl needs that affection from her dad. And I didn't get that. So I have an older brother, and I got that from my brother. I got that affection from my brother. So, but it's not that it was my dad's fault, because he wasn't raised like that. He doesn't know what it looks like. He doesn't know what the right way was, right? And so I think for a long time, I held that against my dad. But I had to sit back and I had to realize I had to come from a healed place, I guess, because that's what he went through. And he can't control what he went through. And you have to be kind of understanding of what your parents went through. And you can't hold that against them, but you just have to forgive them for that and move forward.
That's so true. I mean, like, I'll be real. One day I was super mad at my mother. She was going on about, you know, race this, race that. And I have tattoos. I had, you know, nappy hair and whatnot. But I still,
don't say nappy.
well, yeah, exactly. I got 4C hair. I got 4C hair,
There
you
we
know,
go.
the locks. That's how she would call it. And at one point we got into a huge argument because I felt as though she didn't understand my background. Well, the reality was I didn't understand where she came from either. My mother was born in the 50s, where you couldn't walk up in a Dairy Queen and think that you was going to stand in the same line as a white person. You know, you couldn't do that. You also couldn't just walk around with your natural hair out, because you weren't going to be looked at as the same person. You were looked at like you were below people. So I got to understand where she was coming from with that. But at the same time, because she has that mindset, a lot of things that she has done or the things that she has said, I have strived to be the exact opposite. I have tattoos and try to be successful because I believe that she thought that wasn't something that was possible. I make sure that I'm not just sitting here only trying to play sports and trying to get education, because a lot of times they think that that's all that these kids are going to do is play sports and just run through the NFL and NBA. What happens, you don't make it. Nah. The last thing I was going to say before Briah had stopped talking was, a lot of times parents don't understand the impact they have on a kid when they talk about the stresses they're going through. My mother used to complain a lot about the bills and whatnot, and that taught me to think, I got to get my mom out of here. My mother lives in she lives in a 7-bedroom house. I don't got to get out of nowhere. But at the same time, that mindset got put onto me, and then as I got older, I thought, dang, you know what? I need to grow up, because that's such a childish mindset to have as a young black man. I don't need to be focused on providing for my mother. My father should have did that. My job is to provide for the woman I'm going to be with. All right. And that's something I had to grow to learn over time, provide for myself. That's what she would probably want most at anything. Instead of just providing for her, provide for the person who you're going to love, so you can get up out of my house and take care of your family. All right. Still come back and visit, but take care of your family too. All right. And I think that's a big part of them raising you. But yeah.
I think it definitely takes being conscious as a parent, right? And I think the truth is, and being a black parent, like I have 4 boys, and I am extremely conscious of the fact that I have 4 boys. Yeah. Like every single day, and I think about the fact that my darkest son has autism, and that stresses me out every single time I go to sleep. I think about him growing up and being awkward and being zoned out and maybe not listening and just getting shot. Like, honestly, like it's one of the things that stresses me out. But then I realize, though, I can't raise him with the fear that I have.
Exactly.
Right? Because one of the things that I realized too, especially in the Black community, is that we want our kids to be grown from the second they step out the womb. We want them to have it together, right? Because the truth is, society puts pressure on us to have it together, right? Black girls are punished more in schools than anybody else. In schools, they get suspended more often, they get punished more often, they get sent to ISS more often. If they're in any kind of altercation, they get blamed more often. Right? So Black girls, and then they're over sexualized from a young age. So Black girls are taught differently, right? Black boys are looked at as threats. They literally say from the age of 9, Black boys are perceived as larger, more aggressive, and scarier than any other race. From the age of 9, they'll look at a 9-year-old and say, "Oh, he looks like a teenager."
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so it's like there is like this tremendous pressure, right? Because like as a parent, you're thinking like, you're looking at your 9-year-old like, no, you can't do that. When really your child is doing something that's completely developmentally appropriate.
Yeah.
Right? They're being developmentally appropriate.
Exactly.
But like there's like this part of you that's like, I need you to not do that, right? Because I'm afraid that something's gonna happen to you, but also how can I punish you for literally being a child? Yeah. You're a child, right? And it's definitely a really fine line to walk. And like you said, like we can't blame our parents for it. They come from a different space. But I definitely think like what Kobe was saying, like putting those stressors on. I caught myself one day. I think I was walking through the house and the kids left it. I mean, it looked like a whole tornado hit. It looked like a whole tornado hit. And I was like, I got so much to do. And y'all mess up. And I was livid. And I'm just walking through, throwing stuff away and kind of like raging, muttering to myself. And my oldest one, Jaden, he comes in and he's like, Mom, can I help you? I know, I'm so sorry. We stress you out all the time. And I immediately felt like crap. Because I was like, I don't want that to be your thought process of me as you get older, to think all I did was stress my mother out, because that's not true.
And that's what I'm saying. A lot of times, think about it like this. I feel like as though if I didn't spend so much time focusing on how to help my mother in the long run, I would have had it figured out for myself a whole lot more. I would have thought more about what I wanted to do in my future. Now, granted, I like where I'm at currently, but I would have thought way more about the decisions I made in high school, whether I wanted to go grind at 6 a.m. in the morning for football, if I wanted to go and study for that test that might have got me into a higher school. Like that would have been something that would have crossed my mind a lot faster if I was focused on myself and what I wanted to do. I would have picked up a camera a lot earlier rather than focusing on, being to that 7 a.m. practice to play football, because granted, I love the sport. But I promise you this, the first second I turned on a YouTube video and seen somebody vlogging, I was like, dang, I ain't gonna lie. I can see myself doing that. And it's like, I was scared to get into doing stuff like that, because I thought there's no way that's gonna bring me enough money to take care of everybody. I gotta help my whole family. Mm-hmm. The stress is on me. In the regards of like having that mentality, people will figure it out. All right. I watch my mother, somebody, she'll ask somebody for help. They ain't got it. Okay, cool. I got to figure it out. Yeah. I done seen Dap have situations where she didn't, got put into situations. I've seen my sisters and brothers get put into situations where they didn't feel like they were going to get it out. I've seen my brother move across the entire country by himself with his wife, like stuff like that, with his whole family in the back seat. They figured it out. Was I there to help? Nah, but I could show some moral support. But was I there to help? No. They figured it out. People will figure it out. And a lot of times, you doing for you is going to help everybody else out in the long run.
Yeah. So a question I have for you guys. Do you feel like, growing up in your adult lives, right? Most of us, we grew up in single-parent households, correct? Mm-hmm. So do you guys think that there's a difference in the power of growing up in a single-parent household and a two-parent household?
Absolutely.
Just to start with, I'll say my parents divorced, right? And, what that taught me was I grew up with my mom. So y'all know my brother, right? We're very close in age. He's about to be 22 in March. I'm 20 years old. So we were in high school at the same time, right? And we went to two different high schools because of basketball purposes. And if you know how basketball is set up at the high school level, it's like you got JV girls, you got JV boys, varsity girls, varsity boys. My brother was a varsity player. I was a varsity player, so those games are back to back, right? I seen my mother make both games in one night. And so that single parent household, right? Seeing that and what that teaches me is you can't make excuses. There is no excuse. Like Kobe said, you have to figure it out, right? So is there a difference in the power of growing up in a single-parent household and a two-parent household?
For sure. Guaranteed. I mean, granted, I didn't grow up in a two-parent household. I grew up in a two-parent household when I was 5 years old, but granted, after that, it was all single-parent. But what I realized was that, like, the absence of that second parent, me being a guy, having a male perspective, a lot of times you don't realize, but at a young age, you're going to gravitate towards your mom. And I used to gravitate toward my mom all the time. I wanted to be by her side. I wanted to show up at her job. I didn't care what she was doing. I was with her at 5 a.m., leaving at 12 at night. I was there. I didn't do anything but ask her for candy and stuff, but I was still just sitting there and be by her side while she did hair. I didn't care what she was doing. Yeah. As I got older, I started to gravitate away from her. And because I didn't have that father figure there, I showed resentment towards her unknowingly because I'm like, dang, why aren't you here? Who's supposed to be here? It's obviously you because you're the next parent, but she wasn't supposed to be there. And granted, it's nobody's fault. But at the same time, unconsciously knowing, I showed resentment towards her, and it affected our relationship in the long run. In high school, I barely talked to my mom until my senior year. And granted, she started coming to football games and whatnot, and we had a great relationship. But before that, from the time I was 13 until 16, 17 years old, I didn't really try to speak to her. I lived with my sister for a whole year because of it. Shoot, I would rather sleep on the floor than be in that house. So it's like, when it comes down to it, that resentment towards her was grown because I didn't have that next parent to teach me, okay, what do I do next? Now that I'm done messing around and having fun and sitting by my mom's side, I'm ready to get up off her hip because her hip's starting to hurt. Well, what's next? All right, what's the next? Who's next? Where they at? All right, cool, they're not there. What do I do now? So
I kind of had the same situation. My situation's kind of a little bit different. So I had both my parents, but my parents were separated in 2012, but they decided to stay together for my brother and I and didn't decide to divorce until 2019. So my mom told me a lot of stuff regarding my dad that made me look towards him a certain way to the point where I started like neglecting him and only focusing on her. And I lost all those years with my dad to the point where I look back like, damn, like, if I would have just spoke to him and had that conversation with him, things could have been a lot different. Now, granted, I love both my parents, but I just feel, though, like if you both know that this is not going to work, do not try to stay together for the sake of the kids because it's just going to hurt them in the long run. Like, both y'all need to make that decision to say, come to a decision together and say, all right, this is not going to work. We can both work on co-parenting because them staying together traumatized my brother and I. And I didn't realize that until I got older and I started seeing other examples of other parents and families and stuff like that. Like, and I tell them this all the time, and we can never talk about it because, it's very sensitive for the both of them. But, like, if they would have just separated, things could have been completely different. We could have all had relationships, but there's like right now you could tell there's hate between the both of them, and they will never ever get over that. There's always going to be that thing there that's stopping them from moving forward.
I think you guys both make such great points, and I think it really points to, it really depends on, like, if you're in a single parent household, it depends on how the single parent is approaching it.
Yeah.
Right? It depends on how it's being approached. Like Briah said, like, you could have the parent that's completely like, if it's a divorce, you could have the parent that's resentful and trying to turn the kids away, or you could have, you could have somebody like your mom who's like, I am going to show up to both games and not make a single excuse. Yeah. Right? Like, I think it's really, really interesting because, like, I think for me, I was in a single parent household, and I think even to take it to the next level, I have 3 siblings and none of us have the same dad. None of us have the same dad. And that caused so much, like, discord for us, like, coming up, right? Like, summers, like, half the time we weren't together, right? Someone was off somewhere. Like, I used to hate being the only one who got, like, because we used to live in New York, I used to hate being the only one who got sent to Florida, like, by myself, because on my dad's side, I was an only child. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I hate being the only one, like, I'd call, and it's, like, all my cousins and everyone is having fun, and I'm like, this sucks, right? Yeah. Like, this sucks. And the thing is, it didn't help, right? Because my parents, their relationship was absolutely toxic. Like, I had a conversation with my sister, and I asked her, I said, what's your earliest memory? And she said, oh, it's like me, like you, my mom, my dad. I think we were going to the mall. I said, my earliest memory, the earliest thing I can remember of it is of my parents breaking up. That's the earliest thing I can remember. I can remember waking up. I can remember them fighting. I can remember my mother bashing my dad's eyebrow open, him bleeding, and her taking me straight out the house with nothing but a t-shirt and panties on.
And they don't realize that that's some of the stuff that we remember, and we take that on into other relationships, and then we wonder why it doesn't work out.
Exactly.
Think about it. From anything you've ever encountered, right? I wanted you to remember, besides a wedding or a party you went to, remember positive events in your life right now. The odds of you remember every last positive event over every person that did you wrong or did you negative, or the negative events you remember, is like slim to none. The ratio is outstanding. Like it's going to be like a 9-to-1 ratio, because those negative events, those negative moments that happen in your life, you're going to remember over the positive ones, because naturally within you, you want to stay away from that. Okay, I got to watch out for that. Oh, dang, that was traumatizing. So it's like a lot of times parents don't realize those outbursts, that energy, that negative energy that they push out, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, just transferred. So that negative energy sits a lot longer than that positive energy.
And then they perpetuate it over time, right? I still remember being like 7 years old and like my dad being like, oh, you picked your mom over me the day that we broke up. Sir, I was 3.
Exactly.
That's another thing that I can say. Like, I cannot do the whole pick a side. That drives me crazy. Because then I feel like if I pick this person's side, then I made the other person feel some type of way. I tried picking sides one time, and we got in an argument on Christmas Day to the point where the police showed up to the house, and it got hectic.
Another negative moment.
Exactly.
Well, I would say, honestly, like you guys is your parents separating, right? I can say that I had the opposite experience. My parents actually were very, like, they were always around each other, always cool, like, always. They may have had their disagreements and things would have got heated, but the thing for them was to always talk it out and figure it out. Why? Because they had kids together and they had to figure it out for their kids.
Was that confusing for, I'm not trying to, like, I wonder, was that confusing for you as a kid to, like, not fully understand and see your parents have a good relationship and then in your head be like, if y'all get along so well, why y'all not together?
Honestly.
Like, did that ever cross your mind?
No, because my parents made it very clear, I think.
He used to say when he was younger. Briah says around, Mommy, can you give it? You're not gonna get back together with Daddy?
Hey, but that's crazy. You say that.
I feel like her brother was more like that than she was.
Actually, he wasn't, because for a long time, I'm just now getting over the thought of my parents actually getting back together. I've always wanted that. Probably until I got to high school, I was like, yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
I'm the same exactly.
Like, yeah, that ain't
It's been
gonna
a little
happen.
bit long now.
But
I
not because they hated each other or anything like that, but because I just knew, me personally as their child, that they were better apart and they were better friends.
Yeah, I thought my parents were going to get back together, and then my dad told me he was getting married, so I knew that was out the window.
It's tough. It's tough.
Now, here's the question, though. You said that your parents were, like, separated first. Would you have wanted them to get back together?
Around that time when everything first started happening, I did want them back together.
How old were you?
I was 12, and my
See,
brother
when you're
was
younger, that's what you want.
But
Yeah,
the thing is,
that's what you want.
I had friends, really close friends, whose their household was,
Yeah.
both parents.
Yeah,
they loved each other.
I think
they did date night. They did everything, and I'm like, well, okay, why
then,
my parents can't be like that?
And
So
then
I
being
had
involved
questions.
with sports, right? Like, you see mom and dad at games, right? Of your
you got team
teammates.
mom.
You see mom and dad. You see team mom, soccer
was
mom,
another
whatever the
thing.
case may be. And it's just like, I got my mama.
And that's what makes it hard, right? Because then when you have that single parent, they can't do those things. Like, I will say that the one thing coming from a single parent household, I wanted to make sure that my household was a 2-parent household. Like,
That's
I
why
wanted
that's
to make
so
sure.
serious for me too.
Yeah, I
because
wanted
of
to
what
make
I've
sure
experienced.
because the
it
thing is,
isn't?
I can be the team mom if I know that my husband can pick up the slack for me to do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, I can do the extra because it's not all on me. Like, when it's all on you, you can't do the extra. You don't got time for the extra. You want to. You probably want to. You probably want to be the person that's making the meals and doing the carpooling, and you probably want to do it because you probably want to be involved. But there's only so much you can do when it's all on you all the time. It's
And
hard.
don't show that to your kids. Let me tell you, if you're a mother out there, if you're a single mother, do not show your struggle to your children, all right? It's not for them to see. This is your battle to fight. They're your kids. You had them. Their problems are not your problems. And that's a huge thing because that's going to fall into their development. There should be no reason why a 13-year-old or 14-year-old in the suburbs thinks they got to make it out the hood that they don't live in to become this all-star athlete because their mom decided to complain about the water bill one day.
I got to make it out these burbs.
Regardless, if you are a single mom in a household, whatever may have happened to your partner, whether y'all split up, whether you were widowed, whether y'all just don't get along because they just never met or whatever it may be, you carry that burden on you and your friends, just not your kids. All right?
I think that applies to men too, though.
Oh yeah, guaranteed.
Because my dad, not to love you, but
she said love you.
My dad has a habit of not intentionally meaning to do this, but he'll say sometimes like, "Oh, you know, I don't have it. I can't do it right now. I'm struggling. I literally don't have it," but has a house in Parkland, 5 bedrooms, and a Tesla. So it's like the one time that I asked him, I was like down really, really low. I said, you know, can I get something? He told me he didn't have it. From that point on, I made it a priority to not. I don't ask anybody for anything. I get it on my own. Sure. And if I'm really down that bad and I have to ask somebody, 9 out of 10, I'll probably go to my mom.
Let me tell you,
that's about it.
I know my mom's story like the back of my hand. You understand? And the wild thing is, if I ask her today if she remembers telling me it, she gonna say, "No, I never told you that. I never told you that part of the story."
Okay, I will say I hate that.
So let me tell you,
parents doing that.
A lot of times you don't know when you're complaining to your kids or who you're complaining to. Sometimes you just need somebody to vent to. And if you live in a black community, or if you are a single mother or a single father, a single parent in general, go seek therapy rather than seek therapy through your kids.
Well, that you talk about,
we're not gonna talk about therapy in the black community. That's a whole other conversation.
We talk about like our parents venting to us, right? My mom, she didn't do that until me and my brother got older, where we had the mental capacity to actually understand.
She shielded you guys well.
I wish my parents did that with me.
I'll be real with y'all.
Because
she shielded y'all. She shielded y'all the best way she could. But
sure.
But you know, they were really putting themselves. He really putting himself out there. So Dap did a great job, though.
She did. I would genuinely say, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I tell, because obviously I am married to her brother, and I tell her brother all the time, my model in life for the kind of parent I want to be, the kind of relationship I want to have with my children. I said the way your sister is with her children. I said I hope to God my kids love me that much. I said I hope to God I do enough of a good job that they love me the way her kids love her.
And I swear to God, I tell you this, that falls into just like, I hate to say it, but just because you have kids, that does not make you a parent. Having kids does not make you a parent. All right? Being a father is different than, you know, your name being on a DNA test. I'll be real with you. You know, being a mother is way bigger than you just pushing out the kid at birth because, hey, there's kids in the system that got mothers that push them out. All right? But a lot of them kids, they neglected. So when it comes down to being a mother, be open to, or being a father, even when you're a parent, be open to understanding how parenting really works. And of course, everybody's parenting is different, but understanding different avenues to see what's best for your kid. How does your kid respond? If your kid shows at a young age that they have some form of, let's say, social anxiety, where they don't respond well to you yelling, all right? They don't respond well to you yelling.
Nobody responds well to anyone yelling.
But you know what's surprising?
Just gonna put it out there.
You know what's surprising? I responded well to yelling because that's literally what I would grow up around.
No, you've been conditioned for it.
Exactly.
Naturally, no one responds. Because like I
shut down.
Listen,
I get quiet.
I had to have a whole conversation, right? Because the argument that I had was because sometimes my husband, he'll get mad, he'll yell, and like we had a whole conversation about like spanking, where I'm like,
I don't agree with spanking.
No, so that's the thing, right? Black community spanking is supposed to be like this. Well, in a lot of ways, it's this norm, right? Oh, you hit your kids. Because, spare the rod, spoil the child, and all this nonsense. And I'm like, first of all, that's a holdover from slavery. Y'all learned that from being slaves, and we y'all don't want to talk about it, but that's okay.
You know this in Jamaica, it's a little, they get real serious with hitting. Okay,
for real. And then the thing is,
there's times where my aunt has picked up a heel. There's times where she's picked up a broom.
I can't even explain to you the amount of things that have been thrown at me in my lifetime.
I'm surprised that I don't have more scars.
And you know what's wild? I've never been beat by my mother. I think I'm one of the only ones that has not been. She has never laid a hand on me. Never in her life. She has never laid a hand on me. But I've watched her beat the living life out of my sister, right? Did that make my sister a better person, or did it make her just want to hide what she already does behind my mother's back?
And that's the thing that I try to explain. Listen, but the thing is, it's so interesting the ways in which it's like I said, the inherent need to protect your parents comes out because when we have a conversation, I tell him, I don't want you to hit the kids, and I'm being honest. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care how you feel about it. It's not a discussion I want to have. I'm like, it's not something I'm trying to, impose upon you. I said, but I do not want my children being hit. And you know what it turns into? It turns into, well, if you're saying that hitting your kids is problematic, then you're saying that my parents were bad parents. And I'm like, no, I'm not saying that your parents were bad parents. I'm saying that, and it's not in a disrespectful way, but I'm saying that your parents at the time didn't know any better. They knew what their parents did to them.
In the habits they practice report.
Exactly. And so they were just repeating what was done to them, right? I said, but there's nothing wrong with us realizing to do better. I'm like, because I told him, I was like, you're a teacher. You go to school, them kids act out. I said, do you whip out a belt? Do you whip out a belt? Do you slap them? Do you scream at them? No, right? If you wouldn't do it there and you still find a way to get around it, then you can figure that out here too. You can have the same patience here.
Them be the kids that be acting out or acting like little angels at home. The kids that be acting out at school because they can't act out at home. They know they can't, so they act out at school.
That's the time for them.
Yeah, that's the time for them to show out. Them be the main kids. Oh, call my mama. Call it in. You know what's already coming. You get a beating. Okay, cool. You get right back to the next day. You get right back to school next week.
It's been proven that it's not effective.
It's not effective.
I got a huge beating one day. My dad, a leather belt. I actually got 2 beatings. My mom beat me when I was in the shower and I was soaking wet.
Not in no shower.
That hurt. And then my dad whooped me one time, and it was terrible. Let me tell you something. After my dad whooped me that one time, I flinched every time he came towards me because that belt.
I feel like it hits different when your dad hits you. But you know what though? I also think that like
as a girl,
as a girl, I feel like it affects you differently.
I was so hurt, but like not even physically. I was emotionally hurt. But I think I know this is kind of like off topic, but I think what was worse is watching my brother get tore up because I couldn't do nothing to save him. And it's like if I tried to save him, my ass got beat too.
I don't want to get beat.
Yeah. So quick question for you guys. So have you guys ever had that moment where it was like you looked at your parent and you said, I'm proud of you. That's my mom or that's my dad.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
Jinx.
guaranteed.
I could say when my mom passed her NCLEX exam and she became like a registered nurse and everything. Because I seen when she had to completely stop working and my dad had to take over the payments. He had to take care of everything. And she was early mornings, late nights, taking tests, doing all this other stuff. And when she failed the first time, and when she went back and did it again, like I saw how happy she was, and I was like, I'm proud of you. You did your thing.
Ooh, are we the same person? So my mom, my mom has a BSN, and my mom is also a nurse. And I remember we went to her graduation, we went to her pinning ceremony. But I think the time when I was really like, and I know it's gonna sound super, really, really superficial. But I remember the day that my mom said that she paid off her Lexus. She has never been prouder of anything in her life than to have a luxury car paid off. Like, and then she was like, and she came to me, she was all proud of herself. She's like, last payment. She was like, I ain't paying for nothing else, no more. And she was just so proud of herself. Like, I think it was the pride that she had in herself, right? Because she was self-sufficient. Same as Lyric. Like she stopped working. She was just going to school. She kicked her butt. I saw her, like, she wanted to make sure she got straight A's. Like she was like a high achiever, and she put that in me. Like if I get anything less than a 4.0, I feel like I messed up somewhere. So like,
that part.
So it's like she was so high achieving. And so like just to see her continuously strive for that and like, to get everything that she wanted out of what she was doing, I couldn't have been prouder.
Yeah, that's actually what I was gonna say. I was gonna say something like material wise, because my mom has 2 masters, and I've always had to have that same mindset. Like I couldn't be that kid that was like, "Oh, well, you never had good grades." Like, nah, bro, she done got 2, so I really can't complain about it. Only way I could outdo it is by getting a PhD. So that's when I can talk a little bit about it. But I was actually gonna talk about when my mom had to sit there and deal with her mom's passing, just because she had her mom her entire life. A lot of us, I don't think any of us actually know what it's like to lose, like, a parent and
Until
actually
it
have
happened.
that physical attraction to it. I lost my father at a very young age, so to have that attachment, I was still in a development stage where I was still figuring out even what life was. That's like 5 years old, that's where you just come into the awareness. You just spawn in out of nowhere, you know? All right, cool. It's like you just spawn in, and next thing you know, okay, boom, this happened and that's happened. Okay, I understand what's going on, but I don't understand the impact until later on in life. My mom had her mom her entire life, and to see what she had to go through with knowing that her mom was on the decline, to dealing with it during that time, to seeing the last day where she was there, to dealing with it, all the arrangements and stuff for her passing, and then to even see it in the months to come. I would just look at her and be like, you know, just check on her, you know, see if she's good. And she handled it like a champ. You know, a lot of people can preach by the Bible until it's time to go, and then you wonder if that Bible is real or not. And she's somebody who just sticks by the words that she listens to. She trusts in the words that she's read. Regardless of the things that she may do on a daily basis, everybody sins, everybody does their part, but at the same time, she lives by the words she preaches, and it goes very far to see her do those things. And when it's crunch time, pretty much, you know, a lot of times you can talk about, oh yeah, you believe in the Lord, and everybody, you know, you either go to heaven or hell or whatnot, and they live a good life, but to actually have faith in that and to deal with it head on is definitely tough. So seeing that's definitely, that's a moment where I was saying I was proud of her, because, you know, she had to deal with a passing as well at a young age with her father, but at the same time, she was too young to really understand it. While in my end, like, I had pretty much, we came from the same situation. So seeing how she dealt with it, knowing that, of course, it's going to have to happen one day. You got to say goodbye to everybody one day. To see how she handled it, it just makes you more confident in how I can handle it when that time comes. Later on in the future, later on. So
Much later.
Yeah, much later on. But I had to say I was proud of her, because a lot of times that's hard to deal with. A lot of people would want to give up on life after they had their entire life filled with their parent, you know? So.
Yeah. Well, I would say there was no actually specific moment that I would say I was proud of. Well, I'll say my mom. No specific moment that I was specifically proud of my mom. I would say I'm always proud of my mom.
I mean, she gives you a good reason.
Because she's like, we look at movies, we watch Marvel movies and all this crap, right? We got Wonder Woman, Superwoman, and all that crap. But I look at my mom every day and I say, yo, you're a real life superhero. Because the things you've done, the things you were able to do when it seemed impossible, it's heroic. And I look at my brother and I today, and it's like, our mom did that.
She raised good people, and that's
She
hard
did
to
that.
do. And that's hard to do.
She did that. And I mean, yeah, so I would say, and as far as my dad, right? Let me not leave him out, because I love my dad. And we may not have had the best relationship over the years, but my dad, I would say to him, man, he's a hustler. And he just goes and gets it no matter what's thrown at him. Real estate, truck driving, whatever the case may be, he always figures it out for him and his family. And I would always say that about my dad. So I would say I'm proud of my dad for just always figuring it out. Yeah. And so, Kobe, you touched on this too. Your dad, right?
Yeah.
He passed away. May God rest his soul. And I'm sure you were young, right?
Guaranteed.
But he's taught you some things.
Oh, guaranteed. The thing is like a lot of times you don't understand the impact. People think because you're that young, you don't remember things. But I think a lot of times you remember a whole lot more than what they'd ever believe. I was standing by the pool one day, and I brought my report card home in pre-K. You know, I'm not sitting here thinking nothing of it. I'm like, they handed me a paper at school. This is my grades. Yeah. I got 1s and 2s. What you mean 2s? You got one job to show up to school and behave. You ain't got to worry about no A's, B's like your sisters and brothers. This is literally what he said. You got to worry about no A's, B's, and C's like sisters and brothers. You got to worry about getting 1s, 2s. And what is this? I said, but it's only one. You can't sit still? What, you got too much energy? So it's like the standard was already set. And then you would think, okay, well, how does this kid still remember that? It's wild. No, I remember exactly where I was standing at. If you were to pull up to the house right now, I'll show you exactly where I was standing at when it was said. And that stuff carried on me for the long run. So now when I go into stuff, I don't shoot for progression. I just shoot to be the best I can be. All right? And there is no excuses. If I put myself in a situation, I hold myself accountable. All right, cool. You know, all right, I got an F. All right, why did I get an F? Didn't study hard enough. All right, cool. I'm not losing no weight. all right, why am I not losing no weight? I'm not going to work out. All right, and it just goes on and on and on. Okay, you're broke. You complain about the fact that you got to pay a bill that you signed yourself up for. All right, well, maybe I should have made more money. It's just like at that point, it's like it just carries on and on and on, and that's why like the people around me, when I hear them complain, I tell my girl all the time, like, you put yourself there. You asked for this. Yeah, it's the negative part, but you asked for this. Yeah.
So just to wrap up, man, I say that I think that your parents, they give you your roots to stay grounded, right? And they give you your wings to help you fly, right? So I just want to give y'all the chance to give y'all parents y'all flowers, man. Go ahead and shoot, man.
For sure.
Go ahead.
You want us to say something
specific?
Go
ahead.
Like
give your parents their flowers,
the
man.
one thing I will say about my mother that, thank you for teaching me to, always go for it. She's the reason why, I had like 2 kids while I was going through school, going through my bachelor's, going through my master's, still did it because she gave me that example. So thank you for doing that. You're the best.
Hey, Ma. You probably watching this. Thank you for showing what real strength really is. A lot of people don't understand how to show how strong you could actually be. Thanks for showing how strong Black women can thrive.
Oh, my turn. Okay. Mom, thank you for showing me determination and also, showing me never to give up and that there's always something at the end of a struggle. Dad, thank you for showing me how to love and also just being there for me. And I know we didn't have the best relationship for a couple years, but I love where we are now. And I hope to continue to, just expand on that relationship.
Mom, I would say thank you for giving me the image of what a woman is. Not only a woman, but a mom. Because one day I may have my own kids. I say I don't want kids, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But thank you for showing me what a woman is and to never make excuses and to always love unconditionally and always to be a great human being no matter what people do to you. And Pops, man, thank you for teaching me how to always work hard no matter what's thrown at you. And I'll say this about my dad, too. Thank you for always believing in me and my abilities and my brain. One thing my dad always told me when I was playing basketball, he said, your brain is going to make you a lot more money than any basketball would. So thank you for always believing in my abilities and believing in me and teaching me to always go for it and work hard.
Beautiful. I love it.
I'm Briah with Boxing One, the podcast.
M3 Kobe.
Deandra.
Oh, and I'm Lyric.
Thank you guys for watching, tuning in, and listening. Appreciate it.